Okay, in this section, we're going to finish this 6-pack case. We just want to scale it up so it'll hold this now roughly to scale beer bottle. And here's the model, so I'm going to change it. I'm going to double click and just name it 6-pack case. And then go into object mode. And luckily the axis center is at the bottom of the 6-pack, which is where I want it. So I'm just gonna hit the T button for scale and scale it up. So I'm gonna put this bottle in one of the walls. That's nice. I like that. That's good. I'm going to hide this figure right now just by unchecking. Okay. So that is pretty much the scale, and the 6-pack case can now hold a bottle. Okay, the next thing to do will be to punch a hole in this 6-pack case and make a handle. So I'm going to hide this bottle so that we're actually going to use another spline generator tool to make the object that will punch the hole in the 6-pack case. The first thing I want to do is start with a rectangle spline, and now everything's really big because it's all to scale. So for some reason the default is 157.5 inches. So I'm just going to type in 3 by 3 just to make it smaller. And then bring it up here. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. And just for placement, just to visualize this handle, I'm going to place it right here. So the height may be 1.5 inches, and then about 5 inches for the handle. Now the cool part is with this rectangle spline, because it's a parametric object, it's got these parameters, I can go and check this box right here called rounding. It'll round the edges, and it sets a radius that you can change too. So if I did 0.2, you can see how it rounds the edges. 0.5, and 0.75 was the max, which is what I wanted, so that it has this nice kind of pill shape. And that is going to be the handle for the 6-pack case. What I'm going to do is bring it out a little bit and then bring another spline generator tool in here, the Extrude object, and drop the rectangle in as a child of that. Now I did that because you can set the direction or the movement of the extrude in the Extrude object, and by default it goes in the Z direction. So I'm going to hit 0 for the Z direction and then drag the X direction. And here we go. This is a nice extruded object that would have been a little bit of a pain to model from a polygon object. And there isn't really anything in a primitive that would have done this except for the capsule, but that's rounded. It doesn't do this depth like this and this flat face. So extrusion of a spline object would have been the best way to do this. And we're going to use the bool object to combine this extrude object with the 6-pack case object, and it'll punch a hole in the 6-pack case. The first thing I'm going to do is first I'm going to make a copy of this extrude object and then uncheck it and hide it. This is just, I like to do this as a backup in case what I'm going to do next doesn't work out and I don't have to rebuild this really quickly. So I'm just going to hit C, which is make editable. It's also this button right here. And when I do that, this becomes a polygon object with 2 caps. And that's can be frustrating when you do that initially, because it might seem like this is one solid object, but there's actually 3 objects put together. And you have to combine all these things to make it a solid polygon object. So the easiest way to do that is to just shift select. So select the extrude, which is the body, this part, sorry, which is the body, and then the 2 caps. So shift select all 3 of those, and then right click. And this is in object mode, but it can be in any mode. As long as I've selected them in the object manager, I can go down here and do connect objects and delete. What that does is it brings all the objects together and then deletes the old object hierarchy of the extrude object and then the 2 caps. So that's nice. And the thing that's kind of annoying right now is the axis center was based off of the extrude object, and by default it sets at the origin. So right now the axis center for this object is way off the middle, and that can be really annoying if you're trying to rotate something or even like scaling them. You know, scales from that point, not from the middle part. So one essential tool I love to use all the time is inside the mesh drop down up here. It's called axis center. And when you select that extrude object and you click this button, center axis 2, it finds the exact middle of that polygon object. And now you have the axis center right in the middle of your object, which is perfect. But say you didn't want that to be right in the middle. Say you wanted to custom place this axis center for whatever reason. That's where this button comes in, which is really helpful. The axis modification mode can be turned on like that, and this allows you to move the center axis anywhere you want. And just for fun, I'll put it right on the face right here. And to get it precise, I can do it from this top view. Now once I turn this off, that's where the axis center stays. And I can move and rotate this from that axis center. That is a really, really important tool to have. Saves a lot of headaches. Okay, so now this appears to be one object. If I go into point mode and select one point and move it, that happens. Really frustrating. Even though it looks like one object, it is one object in the object manager. It's one object here. If I was to go in and model this, if I wanted to, and move these points around, I would be really frustrated to find out that there are actually 2 points that exist in the exact same spot right here. And I wouldn't be able to see that unless I started modeling and broke that. And the easiest way to set this up to make it one actual solid object that's watertight is to select all points, Command A or Control A, and right click, and right down here it's called optimize. Optimize, it gets rid of points that aren't being used and duplicate points and points that exist in the exact same space, which is exactly what was going on in this object. And frankly, any object basically that you go from parametric to polygon, which can be really frustrating. You want to just be able to make an object, make it polygonal, make it editable, and then start editing. But you have to go through and select all these points and hit optimize. And once you do that, this happens. This is how you know that it's okay. Same with this one. So now you're okay. Now this is a watertight polygon object. And now we can use that for the bool object. So the bool is right next to this dropdown, which there are a bunch of other tools. Right here is the bool object. And the bool object only takes in 2 children. It takes, in this case, the thing that we're going to punch a hole in, and then the thing that punches the hole. I'm just going to call this hole punch. Now what I have to do is just drag them in and make them children of this object. See, now that's going to disappear because by default, when you go to the bool object itself, the type is A subtract B. And that shows up like this. So this is A, this is B. So it's A subtracting B. Since they don't intersect, this one disappears. And you can select on it, and you can see the outline at least, but it's gone. So all you got to do is just move this to intersect with the 6-pack case. And you can see right away it's exactly what we want. Perfect. And that's it. We have made the handle. And I might want to just move it down a little bit to give it, if it's too much like this, it might break as you hold it. So maybe right there. And there we go. So in the next section, I'm going to set up the folds in the sides right here, and then the folds up here, and then we can start. I'm also going to make this skinnier. These are way too thick, these walls. That's okay. It can be fixed pretty easily. So the final section for this 6-pack case will be coming next, and then we can start doing materials and textures and making it look pretty.